Hi, I'm Ted Meyer, and I am in England with Alison Romanczuk. We landed up meeting because we're both artists that do work about scars, and we came across each other's work through the interweb and things like that. Although we came at the scars from a different angle, I started working on scars after my symptoms went away as a way to focus on illness, whereas you used to do other sort of work and then got sick and started working about scars. So why don't you tell us what happened with you?
I've always been a portrait photographer. I'm really interested in people and faces. About 5 years ago, I was diagnosed with a large tumour, a sarcoma, and ended up with a huge scar right down my body with about 70 staples holding it together. So naturally, as a photographer, I thought I should start documenting this. But at the time, I was just too ill and I didn't have the motivation to do it. As luck would have it, it came back 4 years later.
Lucky
Yeah, lucky. Another opportunity for
for art.
a portfolio, yeah. And so I had to have a second operation. 2 weeks before that operation, I met survivors from burns from South Africa and was asked by the head of that charity to take some photos of the children. And so my photography taking scars progressed from that, really.
But you've done a whole series of other people with sarcoma, not just yourself.
Yes. It started off with the burn survivors. I guess I found it easier to take, like yourself, to take photographs of other people rather than turn it in on myself and take photos of my own body. I was put in touch with the CEO of Sarcoma UK, who loved my photographs and had an idea that I should do a project to raise awareness of sarcoma, which is a very rare form of cancer.
Some of these children in Africa, and we'll put some pictures up, are severely burned. Their faces are severely burned. And a lot of times with scar work, people are uncomfortable looking at the images. And you've done work that some of it, although technically beautiful, I love the life coming out of these kids. They're really hard to look at. What do you say to people when they're like, why do you photograph these severely burned kids that are so hard to look at?
It's a real difficulty, and Dora, who the charity was established because of, is particularly difficult to look at. You need to get to know Dora, really, to know how kind of wonderful she is. So a photograph doesn't necessarily work with her, but in terms of the other children, the life and the joy and the happiness of being alive absolutely shines through, and they want me to photograph them. They fight each other so that they could be the subject, and that's what I wanted to portray, really, because historically photographs of children in Africa, it's all sad and it's kind of pulls on people's heartstrings in quite a morbid way, really. Whereas when you meet the children of fire, they are so joyous. That's what I wanted to portray. It's about survival, not victimhood.
Okay, so you photograph these kids, you go to Africa, you photograph them, and then you come back and you're ready to deal with people who have the same illness you had.
It was an interesting jump, wasn't it? I think it was in some ways easier for me to do that project because I wasn't a photographer coming in saying, I want to photograph your scars, I want to photograph your thing. I went in and lifted up my shirt and showed them my scar and said, it's like I'm
one of you.
Yeah, I'm one of you. And that worked really, really well. I was quite nervous about asking people to show me their scars. It's quite an infringement at times. But what I found was that people wanted to show me their scars. They wanted to take their clothes off and say, here's my scar, here's my battle wound. So it was really empowering for them. And of course I did a self-portrait as well. I guess it's about us reclaiming our bodies and saying, after all of that intervention, all that medical intervention where you absolutely have to give up to whoever's dealing with you. This is about, here I am, I'm going to pose, here's my scar.
So you said it was empowering for them. Was it empowering for you to shoot them?
Absolutely, yes. Because I was one of them. We were all in it together. The issue with sarcoma is that people don't know about it, so people don't get diagnosed. And I've had friends who've died of it since I've been diagnosed because they didn't check it out, and the GPs didn't know about it. Creating awareness of both of illnesses that need to be looked at earlier, and also children in Africa who are getting burnt needlessly because of poverty. Has, you know, it's where I am now.
So you had mentioned the poverty over there. So how did the poverty lead to these burns?
In Johannesburg, where we went, there, and you know, right across Africa, there are quite a lot of squatter camps, which is people that have, for whatever reason, you know, checked out of conventional life, and they live in these camps where the electricity is illegally pumped through. They have kerosene lamps to keep hot in the winter, and you know, the cooking utensils are really inadequate. Plus things like candles. So the accidents are there to happen. You know, a whole squatter camp's burnt down, and they have to rebuild them. The children roam around, you know, quite freely. So many of the children that we met, you know, were cooking, were pulled pots over them, was sleeping as babies and candles fell over. You know, really, really kind of basic stuff that shouldn't be happening. The charity's great because it allows Bronwyn to bring the children in and fundraise to get treatment in England and Africa.
Well, let's go look at a couple of your pictures.
Okay.
So we're in your house, and you have this one very serious photo of her rather than one of the more joyous, effervescent photos. Mm. So why your choice to hang this one in your house?
It's one of the only photographs that I've got of Belusha looking quite pensive, and you know, there is an element of sorrow to what's happened to Belusha. For me, looking at that picture, I know Belusha, but she doesn't show the pain and the trauma that she's been through. So I guess that was my capturing of that little bit of her that I don't normally get.
I mean, it really is an incredibly strong portrait, and I could see it being used for all sorts of things for them to bring attention to this problem. Well, let's talk about...
Okay, and this is Holly. I was asked to do a project for sarcoma awareness because, you know, people don't know a lot about it. One of the sad things I think about sarcoma is it's quite a young person's cancer, so it'll hit people when they're, you know, in their early 20s. And of course that's exactly the time when people want to, you know, be their best. They're developing their confidence, who they are. Holly's gone through chemo. She's lost all her hair. She's a brilliant artist herself, actually. So it was great to work with her and get a portrait of her looking pretty stunning, actually.
It's a great... yeah, she looks beautiful.
Even though we've been through all these traumas and we've got all these scars and whatever, we can still be positive about how we look and powerful, you know.
So before we end, just talk about the difference before you started getting into work about scars and illness. You did regular portraits, landscapes. So let's talk about the emotional reward of doing one versus the other. One might be more of a financial reward, whereas...
One of the worrying things is that you are controlling the person. You're taking their portrait. So what I think, how I've developed is that I'm working much more collaboratively with people. So, you know, they want me to take their photograph and we want to raise awareness of what's happening. It's a much more powerful way for me to be a photographer. And much, you know, it's much more meaningful, really.
Great. Well, here you have it, Scars on Two Continents. Your website will be down here somewhere if people want to take a look. Thanks for talking.
Thank you, Ted. Thanks for going.